All right, let's dive into a question that sounds simple but has a pretty wild answer. When you buy a house in England and Wales, what do you actually own? Believe me, the answer is probably not what you think, and it might just change the way you look at your own front door. So let's just imagine for a second, you hit the jackpot, you win the lottery, and you go out and buy your dream house, completely outright with cash. No mortgage, nothing. The keys are officially yours. You own it all, right? The bricks, the roof, and of course the actual land it sits on. Don't you? Well, the technical answer is no. Yeah, you heard that right. It sounds completely bonkers, but it's a fundamental, core principle of land law in England and Wales. So, this begs a pretty big question. If you don't own your land, who on earth does?
This brings us to what you could call the ownership illusion. It feels like you own it, you act like you own it, but from a legal point of view, there's a whole other layer to the story. So let's start peeling that back.
Okay, so here's the big secret. All land in England and Wales is technically owned by the Crown. This isn't some new law. This legal principle goes back centuries. It means that every single property, from the tiniest apartment to the biggest country estate, sits on land that ultimately belongs to the Crown. Now, before you start panicking and barricading your doors, this is really just a legal technicality. Look, King Charles isn't going to show up one day and decide he wants to change the locks on your house. In the real world, this doesn't affect your day-to-day life at all. But, and this is important, it's the key to understanding what it is you do own.
So here's the crucial idea. You're not actually buying the physical dirt and grass. What you're buying is a right in the land. And this right has a special name. It's called an estate in land. It's kind of this abstract concept, sure, but it's the thing that gives you all the power to use and enjoy your property. You own the estate, not the actual earth itself.
So what do you really get for all that money then? Well, it turns out there isn't just one type of estate. The law basically splits them into two main kinds. And honestly, the difference between them is absolutely massive.
On one side, you've got the freehold estate. Now, this is the one everybody wants. It's the closest thing you can get to absolute ownership. And here's the key. It doesn't have an expiration date. Then, on the other side, you've got the leasehold estate. This gives you a lot of the same rights as an owner, but, and this is the big but, it's only for a fixed, limited amount of time. There's a really brilliant way to think about this. A leasehold is basically a slice of time. You don't own the property forever and ever. Instead, you own the right to use it for a very specific period. That could be 99 years, or it could be 999 years. But once that time runs out, that right, that slice of time, goes back to the freeholder. But wait, there's another layer to this. It's not just about the type of estate you hold. Land law also makes a big deal about the types of rights that can exist over a piece of land. And understanding this difference is, well, it's everything. So let's break this down. First, you have a proprietary right. This one's the powerhouse. It's a right that's in the land itself. It's like it's physically attached to the property. Then you have a personal right. And that's exactly what it sounds like. It's a right against a specific person. It's more like a personal agreement, not something that's baked into the land.
So why should you care about this distinction? Well, because a proprietary right sticks to the land like glue. A perfect example is a right-of-way, the legal right to cross someone else's property. If that right is proprietary, it doesn't matter who owns that land. You can use that path against the person who first agreed to it, and you can enforce it against anyone who buys that land in the future. It literally survives the sale, which makes it incredibly powerful.
Okay, I know we've covered some pretty abstract stuff here, but these distinctions between estates and rights, they aren't just quirky legal facts for a trivia night. They have a massive, real-world impact. Let's pull it all together.
All right, so let's just quickly run through the big takeaways. First, remember the Crown technically owns all the land. Second, what you buy is an estate in that land. Third, that estate is usually either freehold, which is basically forever, or a leasehold, that slice of time. And finally, the strongest, most durable rights are proprietary rights because they are attached to the land itself, not just to a person.
So the next time you're walking down your street, just look around. That shared driveway you pass, that little footpath that cuts across a field, every single one is governed by this invisible, complex web of estates and rights. So now that you know the secret, what rights do you think are attached to the land all around you?